Thank you, everyone. We will call the Senate and House Judiciary Committees Conference Committee on House Sub SB 286. Before we call the meeting to order, we are waiting on an announcement from leadership regarding a substitute member on behalf of the minority party in the Senate. So we will stand at ease for just a few minutes. Committee and those following along online, we are waiting for confirmation of the Senate Minority Party, who their conferee is on the Senate side of the committee. It is Senator Haley, and we haven't had another name read in or a change of the conferees on the Senate side. So we are in recess on the House and Senate floor at this time. So we're learning what the status is of our third conferee on the Senate side. I'm going to ask the Senate reviser, Mr. Thompson, without an announced change of conferee on the Senate floor, may we proceed? We have a quorum here. We have 5 of the 6 conferees present. And is it proper and appropriate for Senator Francisco to be a non-voting, non-signing participant, basically sort of not even participating, but being a listener and observer? I'm getting the thumbs up from the reviser, so with that then we will proceed. And thank everyone for being here, the House colleagues as well, and those in the committee meeting room and those following along online. This is the first time that this conference committee is meeting on this bill, so we will ask for a bill brief from the reviser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 286 came over to the House. We don't necessarily need to get into the details of how it came to us because the House substituted it. So I'll just start from there. And if you have any questions about the history, we can go backwards. But the House Committee on Judiciary inserted the contents of House Bill 2652. Which that was a bill concerning certain governmental responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Section 1 of that bill amended KSA 48963. That's the telemedicine statute. That section was set to expire on March 31st of 2022, and this bill would extend that expiration to January 20th of 2023. Section 2 amended KSA 48964. That's the statute that allows a hospital to admit patients in excess of the number of beds if it's necessary to treat COVID-19 patients and to separate those patients from non-COVID-19 patients. Again, that section was set to expire on March 31st, 2022. This bill would extend that to January 20th of 2023. Section 4 of that bill amended KSA 60-5503. That's the statute that provides immunity from liability for healthcare providers related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Current law there provides that the section applies to claims for damages or liability that arise out of or relate to acts, omissions, or healthcare decisions occurring between March 12th of 2020 and March 31st of 2022. This bill would extend that immunity to January 20th of 2023. Section 5 amends KSA 60-5504. That's the statute that provides that people conducting business in the state would have immunity from civil liability for COVID-19 claims. That section is set to expire on March 31st of 2022, and this bill would extend that to January 20th of 2023. And then Section 6 amends KSA 60-5508. That's the retroactivity provision in the COVID-19 Response and Reopening for Business Liability Protection Act. Current law there provides that the immunity from liability provisions for healthcare providers apply retroactively to any action accruing on or after March 12th of 2020 and prior to March 31st of 2022. The immunity from liability provisions for the adult care homes, community mental health centers, crisis intervention centers, community service providers, community developmental disability organizations and institutions applied retroactively from March 12th, 2020 until the termination of the state of disaster emergency. This bill would extend the applicability of both of those sections until January 20th of 2023. And so the House took the contents of that House Bill 2652 and put it into Senate Bill 286. They passed that out of committee favorably. And then on the House floor, there were 2 floor amendments added. So if you have Senate Bill 286 in front of you, the first amendment is on, get the exact page number, was on page 2 there in line 38, and it changed that wording in the healthcare immunity liability provision to provide that it applies to acts that arise out of or relate to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so it changed the verbiage there for the healthcare immunity provisions. And then another House floor amendment added the provisions of House Bill, let me get the exact number here. House Bill 2620. And that bill created a new crime of interference with the conduct of a hospital. And it also increased the criminal penalties for battery of a healthcare provider. And so both of those floor amendments were adopted by the House, and then they passed that bill on over to the Senate. And I can take any questions.
I'm sorry, you're not a conferee, so,
I'm not
okay.
asking a question. I just wanted to say that since Senator Corson has completed his redistricting committee, the minority leader has asked him to sit in my place with, I understand, the same restrictions.
Okay, thanks for straightening that out. I appreciate that, Senator. Thank you. If Senator Corson wants to come and observe from this perspective, that would be the view, yes. So thank you, Senator, and welcome, Senator. So then thank you for the bill brief, Ms. Scott. Do we have any questions for the reviser? Yes, Representative Carmichael.
Thank you. There we go. There we are. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Scott, at page 9, section 5, I guess now, of the bill, if I'm reading it correctly, is where we see House floor amendments changing the, for lack of a better word, I'd say proximate cause, adding the language that arise out of or relate to, and then at line 15, related. Those changes, do they just apply to the healthcare provider immunity from civil liability or damages, administrative fines, or penalties, or do they apply, or does that change apply also to the broader scope of business activities?
Madam Chair, Representative Carmichael, those changes were only in the healthcare immunity provision. So they don't apply to the covered facility provision, which includes the adult care homes and those types of facilities. And they also don't apply to the business immunity. So it's just those healthcare claims.
Say it does not apply to the adult care facilities, is that right?
Correct, because their immunity provision is in a different statute.
And with the chair's permission, one additional question, and that concerns the retroactivity provisions at page 10 at approximately line 5, I think it is, and there may be other places where we discuss retroactivity. But the broader grant of immunity afforded to healthcare providers under the House floor amendments, are they also retroactive going clear back to the beginning of these sad events, March 12 of 2020, or is the application of that broader immunity limited in time?
Madam Chair, Representative Carmichael, I think that an argument could potentially be made either way with regard to that. We didn't put any express provision in the actual substantive section, providing that the amendments that we're making to this act are intended to apply retroactively. But because of the retroactivity provision that you pointed out, I think that, I'm not sure how a court would interpret that.
I appreciate the dilemma because, Madam Chair, on the House floor, we had some discussion about the retroactivity, but I'm not sure the discussion on the House floor meets the black letter of the law or the amendment that we adopted. I appreciate your indulgence. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Thank you. Committee, other questions? I have a question for the process in the House. I understand it was a floor amendment that the representative was asking about in new section 5 of the bill on page 9, starting at line 9. Was there a House hearing on changing the language in section 5, new section 5 of the bill?
Madam Chair, while we had a hearing on the entire bill, we never had a discussion on that change in language. It was brought forward to me and maybe some other members of the committee a few days before we actually worked the bill. At the time, we decided not to make the change out of committee, but then, as you know, the Speaker Pro Tem brought that as a floor amendment in response to the request from the Hospital Association.
Thank you. Committee, other questions? And Ms. Scott, is there further bill brief that you have to provide?
Madam Chair, that covers the extent of what's currently in House Substitute for Senate Bill 286.
Thank you. And then a question for the House, and I believe, was there a hearing on the House side of what is new Section 1 in the bill?
Yes, there was. We had a hearing. I could look up the date, but yeah, we had a hearing committee. We had a number of people, a good group of the people here today. We heard from nearly all of the major hospital systems in Kansas. We heard from law enforcement. We heard from the prosecutors. And then we just had individual hospital workers, nurses, those types of things come and testify before us. And so we passed it out of committee. It did not get above the line before turnaround, so it was sent to an exempt committee. And then the day we worked 286, our majority leader brought that up as an amendment.
Thank you. Committee, other questions about the bill or for the reviser? All right, seeing none, then the purpose of our committee meeting at this time was to get the bill brief, hear what was in the bill, kind of the process of it, how it came to the conference committee, and I think we have accomplished that. So if there is an offer to be made, we will be looking to do that later this afternoon, probably after adjournment of both chambers this evening. So if you'll stay tuned for that, and we will see what time that looks like, but that's kind of the plan going forward. So with that, then, we are adjourned. Thank you.